This is a quick list of situations where interpretation of statutes may be required. Ambiguity. When the language of a statute is not clear or it is open to more than one reasonable interpretation, then the courts will need to interpret the statute to determine the legislature's intent. Vagueness. That is, if a statute is vague and does not specifically address a point in issue, then interpretation is necessary to apply the statute to specific situations. If the literal meaning results in absurdity, that is, if applying the literal meaning of the statute's words would lead to an absurd or illogical outcome, then that is unlikely to be the legislature's intent. Or conflicting statutes. When two or more statutes appear to provide conflicting instructions on a particular issue, then interpretation is used to resolve such conflicts. Or gaps in the law. Sometimes statutes may not address every possible situation that may arise, and the courts will have to interpret the statutes to fill these gaps. Changes in society and technology. As society and technology evolve, situations may arise that were not foreseen by the legislature. So, the courts may need to interpret statutes to apply them to these new conditions and contexts. Case law development. When higher courts provide interpretation of certain statutes, then the lower courts are often required to interpret those statutes in line with the higher court's decisions. Application to specific cases, where courts interpret statutes to determine how they apply to the specific facts of a case before them. Use of undefined terms, that is, if a statute uses terms that it does not clearly define, then interpretation may be needed to understand the meaning of these undefined terms in the context of the statute. Drafting errors, that is, if there are errors or omissions in the statute, then interpretation is needed to ascertain what the corrected statute would likely have intended. And finally, new evidence of legislative intent. That is, if new historical documents or legislative history materials come to light that clarify the actual intent behind a statute, this might necessitate a reinterpretation of the statute's provisions.